And well, some breaking news coming in. The Russian president is all set to visit India. Putin is likely to visit India soon. That's what Kremlin has said in a significant development. Remember, this is important in the context of India and Russia expanding their bilateral ties. Certainly in the past 5 to 6 months, of course, the Prime Minister has visited Russia twice in the past 6 months. One, of course, for the BRICS summit and the other for that crucial bilateral with Putin. The dates are being worked out is what Kremlin has said. But certainly a very significant development given the fact that the Ukraine war has intensified yet again. It's the 1000th day of the Ukraine invasion. But what are its ramifications? Let me go across to my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joining us live. So Ghazali, this is important in the context of the recent sort of closeness that we have seen between the two leaders and India and Russia. The Prime Minister has visited Russia twice in just 6 months. But what are you picking up from your sources? When is Putin's visit likely?
See, Vedant, if you see, the friction between India and China has gone down. India and Russia's closeness is known to everyone, as Prime Minister had made several visits to Russia, Ukraine, and this announcement has come on a day when the war is marking its 1000th day. And it looks very obvious that how India has developed its relations with China. When at a time the West was criticizing India for growing relationship with China, growing trade with China, and India has been responding to that their position on the Ukraine-Russia war is very clear, very unambiguous, as Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Modi had said, that this is not an era of war, solutions cannot be found on battlefield, and perhaps it was also being talked about that how India could be one world power, in a sense, a voice of global south, which can bring these two leaders to the table. And it was also being talked about a peace plan, which Mr. Zelensky was working on in coordination with the United States. But as this war has intensified now, and you saw the developments in the last 3-4 days, that how both the sides have been firing drones and missiles into each other's territory. And today, Russian President Mr. Vladimir Putin has also changed the nuclear doctrine, saying that all these countries or any of those blocked from NATO or other Western powers which are sort of assisting Ukraine with arms and ammunition or any other aid, if Ukraine tries to use those missiles which can have deep penetration into Russian territory, then Russia will be obliged to react to that. So amid all this further announcement that Mr. Putin will be coming to India and will be meeting Mr. Modi is very significant, showing that how these two countries have grown their relationship over the years, and India, Russia already has a strategic partnership. Now we'll have to see whether Mr. Putin will also be discussing a way out to bring an end to this war, because Mr. Zelensky has already said that by next year in 2025, he is looking for a diplomatic breakthrough to bring an end to this war. And Mr. Trump will also be assuming office by January, by next year. So it's going to be very interesting development to see that how these stakeholders in these war, or the countries which are considered as a player who can bring these varying factions or these varying countries to one table, whether India can also play a significant role, or whether Mr. Putin will discuss that as well when he comes and visits India and meets Prime Minister Mr. Modi.
So there are several important points, Ghazali, that you're making, and perhaps India's role as a mediator in the war as well. And as you mentioned, in the past 1 or 2 weeks particularly, we have seen that the war is only intensified. And you also mentioned the updated or the new nuclear doctrine. What could it potentially mean as far as the Ukraine war is concerned? And there's also the 1000th day of the war. But what is the new nuclear doctrine, and what could it mean in the larger context of the war?
See, first response to your first question, that earlier it was not India which was claiming that it would be a peacemaker, regardless of taking all those initiatives by the Prime Minister to go and talk to both the leaders. But later, Russian President Vladimir Putin was quoted saying multiple times that how India could be a global power, or it should get a permanent seat in UNSC, and also that India, Brazil and China could play a role in bringing an end to this war between Russia and Ukraine. And now he making a visit to India only underlines the fact that he somewhere relies on India rather than the Western partners there. So that is one significant development when it comes to the intensifying war between Russia and Ukraine. Now coming to the second point, that how they have changed their nuclear doctrine in a reference to the deterrence they want to provide in this particular war. Now the nuclear doctrine which has been changed or which has been updated by the Kremlin today certainly hints that if any of these world powers like Germany, Britain and the United States have been at the forefront in providing aid, arms and ammunition to Mr. Zelensky and his army there. If that intensifies or if the attacks continue in the Russian territory, perhaps what the nuclear doctrine suggests, that Russia will be obliged to attack to those who assist Ukraine. So it is going to be a very tense situation if the war intensifies or if Ukraine continues its attack inside the Russian territory in the coming days.